What's up YouTube? I'm here to tell you the single greatest exercise for your abs. But before I go into that, I want to mention that if you're here for a free tutorial, click the link in the description and make sure to watch the video till the end. So, greatest ab exercise. So why am I telling you this? Because a lot of people, they usually train their abs by doing leg lifts. So whether that's leg lifts on the floor or in the support position or hanging leg lifts. While that's all good, I see still a lot of people with tight hip flexors. So if you're locked anterior like this, then doing hanging leg lifts, you will usually experience maybe pain in the hip flexors because they're very tight. Also, if you perform leg lifts on the floor, then usually people have very tight hip flexors. They have troubles maintaining their lower back on the floor, and lower back keeps getting off the floor, and that's a very bad thing for your spine. It's uncomfortable and painful. So if that's the case, I wouldn't pay so much attention to leg lifts. I wouldn't completely cut them off. Hanging leg lifts are one of the best exercises for your core. So if you don't feel pain doing them, then I would still keep them in my training, but I would make sure to stretch those hip flexors. I'm gonna show you that later. But still, there is a way to strengthen your abs without actually getting your hip flexors tight. So that's the best ab exercise, and hip flexors don't work there and you will only feel your abs. So let's get started with the exercise. This is similar to crunches, but this is the proper crunch. So we lie down like this, and to eliminate our hip flexors, we're actually gonna put our legs like this. So put the legs here and keep them here. So we can have our arms in several different positions. When we're performing this one, I actually prefer to have my arms like this, because that way you don't pull your neck to help yourself up, and you don't use the assistance of your arms, so you don't use momentum to get up. So I like to keep my hands here, and from here simply curl up as far as you can and exhale in the meantime. It's very important. So from here and back down and back down and back down. It's very important to do so with control. So if these ones you're performing, you get nothing. So it's very important to start here, exhale on the way up, curl using no momentum, go as far up as you can, contract, and extend just up to here. So not all the way up here. You don't have to do, if you're going all the way here, then again you're gonna use momentum. So I like to always keep my chest closed. So I never lower in this position, I lower in this position. So from here up, exhale, and back down. If here range of motion is simply like very small, that means you have a little bit of weaker abs, and it's going to improve over time. So if you don't get all the way up, if you can get up to here, back here, then that's still okay. So, boom. So that's about it. That's the bang for the buck abs exercise. One of the most important exercises that is always skipped in calisthenics. So whether somebody's doing leg lifts or something, but your abs are actually doing just this, what I showed you now. So this is a very important exercise. For me, it was always, I don't know, very easy. So when I tried it, I was like, nothing special. But then I gave it to my students, especially the ones with tight hip flexors, and they can barely move here. So even though their leg lifts may be fine, you know, so even though you can perform leg lifts on the bar, that doesn't mean that this is gonna be okay, because always their hip flexors also working. But here, this is the isolation of your abs. So simply try this exercise. It's a beautiful exercise. It's very simple, not too complicated. But make sure really to do it correctly. So using no momentum with your arms whatsoever. So none of this shit. And make sure to exhale on the way up. So if I have full, I can't really go up. So I need to exhale. So from here, make sure to exhale all the air. And you will really feel your abs working. So if you want to strengthen your abs, I definitely suggest give this one a go. I would usually perform 5 to 8 reps about 2 to 3 times per week and about 5 sets. I think that's a very good start, and you will strengthen your abs, and it will be easier for you to maintain posterior pelvic tilt, and your core strength will go up. While if you have very tight hip flexors, still I would suggest actually stretching your hip flexors. That's very important, because if you're locked here, then that's not the best option, because your posture is also like this, and most of the stuff in calisthenics, like 90% of the stuff, is done with posterior pelvic tilt. And if you're locked anterior, then it's very difficult to maintain posterior pelvic tilt, because you're more comfortable in that position. So I really suggest stretching your hip flexors. I think a good thing to start is actually foam rolling, so you don't have to like roll all over the place. Just simply find like a spot where it's very tight and simply wait there until the pain goes away. So after 5 minutes on foam rolling, we will move on to a hip flexor stretch, which I will show it to you right now. So we go like this, and from here we simply lean forward. So it's very important how we do that, you know. So if I just go like this to the side, then I can go very low, and I can pretend that my hip flexors are very flexible. While if I go in a proper position, so pushing this hip forward, posterior, boom, this is the proper position. So it's always about how you perform the stretch. So if I'm stretching the right hip flexor, then I really need to push my right hip forward like this. So I really need to be square in the hips, and then I also need to tighten this glute for hip flexor to relax. So really squeeze your butt, and then try to go deeper. Really make sure that you're straight also, because if I'm like this, you know, anterior, then you're not gonna get a good stretch. So you really need to be with your body straight, boom, like this. And now you can feel it. We're gonna stay in this stretch for about 45 seconds per side. So I would start by doing about 3 sets. Later on you can progress towards 5 sets, but in the beginning, 3 sets, I think it's a good start. So how often do we do this? I suggest doing it 3 to 4 times a week, if not daily. Because if your hip flexors are really tight, then that's a problem, because you can't really maintain posterior pelvic tilt. So I would actually do this stretch daily, about 3 sets and 45 seconds per side. So that's very important, guys. Don't neglect your mobility work. Mobility allows us to do what we do. So make sure to spend some time and stretch those hip flexors. That's about it for this video, guys. Just to mention one more time, if you have very tight hip flexors, make sure to stretch them. You will improve your posture, and it will be much easier for you to maintain posterior pelvic tilt and also train your abs. In any case, before I sign off, I just want to mention that I'm really making an effort to create the most valuable content for you guys, and I've actually created a little survey, and I would love your feedback. So before I finish up the course, I really want to make sure that I cover everything. So therefore I want to ask you, what's your #1 personal challenge when it comes to learning calisthenics or mastering advanced moves? So I don't mean just which exercise is difficult, I mean what do you find the most difficult? Where lies the problem when it comes to you getting in shape or learning advanced moves? So please just simply leave a comment below, and you can write as much as you can. I will really try to make an effort to read, to go through all the comments and write you back. Also, if you don't know, I've actually created a free program for you guys, so you have the link in the description, the upper body basics tutorial. So if you want to start calisthenics, then that's the tutorial to go with. So simply click the link in the description. It's free. But most of all, simply leave a comment of what is that #1 problem when it comes to you getting in shape or learning calisthenics, and I will really try to help you guys. Thank you for your time. Peace.